Body Systems project and the computer science component where we create a quiz button. A couple things to keep in mind prior to coding. You need to decide as a group whether your group will create the same button appearance or different button appearances. And if you take a look at mine, you can see that I decided to keep the same button appearance for all of my different buttons. So you just have to decide as a group whether you're going to create it as the same or different. And secondly, if you decide to make it different, you need to decide whether you're going to design the button on your own or upload a button image. Are you going to do a Google search, find a button, and then upload it? Well, then do that prior to coding. That'll just save you time. Or will you design the button? And as you can tell with mine, I decided to design the button. So that's enough of that. Let's actually get into the button. So I'm going to go back into my quiz project, and I'm going to click on it and actually start the work for the button. I'm going to create a new sprite by painting a new sprite, and I'm going to leave the title of this as Costume 1. Now that's very important so we don't get confused with code later, but I'll go ahead and click my button, whichever shape that I want, and I'm going to leave it as a circle shape, and I'm going to fill it with a certain color. Let's just fill it here. And now I'm going to add in my text. And my text is going to be quiz. I'll go ahead and select that. Oops, I spelled it there. There we go. Change the font. And remember, if I click outside, it will allow me to resize my text. And it will also allow me to move my text around. But you'll notice it doesn't allow me to change my font once I clicked outside. Okay, so right now I've clicked outside, I can't go back. So again, if you need to go back and make any changes, you're going to have to click undo. So I'm going to add in quiz, and I actually want a different font. So there it is. I'm going to resize it. And now, if you don't like the size of your button, if you want it larger or smaller, remember you can use the select tool, select the whole button, and make it smaller or bigger depending on how you want it to be. And now let's add the code. We're done with our button. Let's go ahead and add the code for it. I'll go to the scripts tab, and I'll go to my events. And now what I'm going to do is when flag clicked, I want to make sure that this is showing. So go to looks and go to show. Oops. And then next, what I want to do is put my button in a place where I want it to be. Now, the person compiling all these together will ultimately be the person who decides where all the buttons go, but for now I want my button over here. And if you recall, once I place a sprite on Scratch, it will tell me where its location is automatically. So I can go to motion, and I can go to, and it already puts that in place for me, which is great. My next block of code, I'm going to go back to events, and I'm going to drag over when I receive, and I'm actually going to change this to a new message. That new message is going to be main space menu. Now this is very important. You have to have main capitalized, M-A-I-N, space menu with a capital, M-E-N-U. If you don't do that, that's going to screw up the compiling later, so make sure that's set. Now this code is actually going to be the same as this, so if you remember, I can actually pull this off, grab the stamp, stamp it, make a copy of it, and now I've got two sets of the same code, but just from different events. A couple more blocks of code that I'll need. I'm going to drag over when I receive again. And this time I'm going to change this to a new message. It's not going to be main menu or quiz. It's actually going to be called switch with a capital S-W-I-T-C-H. So I've got my new message, which is switch. Make sure that it's capitalized and spelled correct. And now when I have switch, I'm actually going to go to looks and hide it. Okay. And now the last thing that I need to do is make sure that the button actually works. Go ahead and go back to events, And now what I'll drag over is when this sprite clicked. This is the code that gives the button the functionality. So what I want to have happen is I want to broadcast to events. First thing that I want to do is I want to broadcast quiz. And then the second thing that I want to broadcast is switch. So I'm going to broadcast quiz and broadcast switch. Let's go ahead and make sure that the saved file saved now. Let's click my flag. My person disappears, but when I click quiz, my button disappears, and now I can go into the quiz. Awesome. Perfect. My button is working. That is the end of this video. Great job.